委員，
Happy New Year, members. Wish you good health. This is the first meeting for this year, and since the last meeting we have issued some papers, and please note the new paper which has just been issued, which is a supplementary paper submitted by the MTRCL on the manpower issues and on manpower shortage. Under the several projects in the paper, there is a shortage of 2,968 staff short. And as for items to be discussed at the next meeting in March, it's they're set out in the items for discussion at the next meeting. That is a list of outstanding items for discussion, CB bracket 4287. And then at the next regular meeting on the 6th of... Ms. Mo, would you like to speak? Yes. Because you immediately jump to the second item, items for discussion at the next regular meeting. But I'd like to ask about item 1 on the agenda, about 3 members jointly asking a question on the dog, on a stray dog onto railway tracks. Yes, there is an information paper. But my question is, first of all, because the report has to do with public interest, can we be allowed access to the full report? And also, can representatives of the MTRCL come and explain to us? Because for the whole incident in the report, it said that afterwards we have responded in the following manners. First of all, there was no formal apology and there was no accountability. It seems that the matter just came to an end. Can we put this on the agenda? Well, Ms. Mo, on your suggestion, maybe we'll discuss with the administration and secretariat. All right, thank you. Yes. Chairman, I also agree with this approach because it has to do with Shanshui and Fanling Station, which are in my constituency. And in the past 2 weeks, other members also visited Taiwan Station and found that the railings have been the railings are too wide apart, causing a risk for animals to enter, or stray animals to enter. And the information paper is not comprehensive enough, so I also agree that there should be a follow-up meeting. In the report, there are recommendations for follow-up action, so we'll discuss with the administration on how to follow up on the issue. So, the next regular meeting will be held on the 6th of March 2015 at 10:45 a.m. and we'll continue to discuss with the administration on the update of the progress and financial situation of the construction of the Hong Kong section of the XRL, West Island Line, South Island Line, East Kwun Tong Extension, and Sha Tin to Central Link, which is item 1 on the list of outstanding items for discussion. The other item is safety management measures for trains of Hong Kong section of XRL. Any other proposed items? All right, thank you. Next item, progress update of the construction of Hong Kong section of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen-Hong Kong Express Rail Link. We have issued a large number of papers, so let's invite the administration and the MTRCL representatives in. The administration, please.
好，今日出席我哋呢個會議。
We have the following officials attending this meeting: Mr. Yao Shengmo, Undersecretary for Transport and Housing, Ms. Rebecca Pun, Ms. Winnie Wong, and Director of Highways, Mr. Peter Lau, Mr. Henry Chan, and Dr. Leung Kin Man. From the MTRCL, we have Dr. Phil Ko Wong, Ms. Maggie So, Mr. Simon Tang, and Mr. Alvin Look. So, Under Secretary, please walk us through the paper. Thank you, Chairman. Let me give some brief opening remarks. In last November, we briefed members on the major works progress and financial situation of the construction of the Hong Kong section of the XRL for the period ending the 30th of September 2014. And at this meeting, we report the latest progress. And in April 2014, the MTRCL announced that the XRL would commence in 2017, and the program to complete has been submitted, and according to the administration, the MTRCL should closely follow the program to complete PTC and to compress the construction timetable to catch up for the delay. As of September, the XRL has been 63.6% has been completed, and we will monitor the remaining progress according to the PTC. And also, in July last year, the MTRCL informed the administration that the latest cost to complete is $71.52 billion as of August 2014. And we've also completed the estimates prepared based on the entrustment cost. And based on the MTRCL board's report, independent board committee's report, we have reviewed the CTC, and the administration notes that the independent board committee of the MTRCL has compiled 2 reports, and the administration would fully urge the MTRCL to consider the independent expert panel with 2 overseas experts and the Highways Department's supervision mechanism, and submit a new report to the government, and to keep the construction timetable in schedule. And there should be better risk management. And the government has also set up an independent expert panel, which has completed its review, and on the 15th of December 2014, the panel submitted its report to the CN Council, and at the appropriate juncture, announcements would be made, and the administration once again urges the MTRCL to make necessary changes. And on the in October last year, the MTRCL announced the appointment of new directors. It's hoped that the governance could be enhanced. I now invite the MTRCL's representative to brief members on the latest progress of the XRL project. Dr. Wong, I'll defer to Mr. Simon Tang, the General Manager of XRL, to report to members the latest progress. Good morning, Chairman, members. May I first brief members on the overall progress of the XRL project. As of September, the overall completion rate is 63.6%. The line marked in orange is the parts where excavation works have been completed. And for the overall length of 26 kilometers, 20 kilometers of excavation works have been completed. As for the spots marked in yellow, these are the key contract areas, including 810A, 823, and 826. And I'll now report the progress of the individual contracts. As for contract 826 cross-boundary tunnel, the TBM and the tunnel boring machine is now traversing the complicated cavity zone, and investigation is being carried out frequently in front of the TBM. Therefore, the progress is slower than expected. As for contract 825 from Mai Po to Ngau Tam Mei, the tracks are being laid, and for the north side tract, it has been broken through at the end of in November 2014, and overhead lines are being laid at the moment. As for contract 824 from the section between Now Tam Mei and Tai Kong Po, although blasting works have been completed to the extent of 80%, however, a lot of grouting works have to be conducted, so the progress is slower than expected. And it's also a key contract that attracts concern as a result. As for 823A Yunnan section, there are 2 TBMs working at the same time at the north and southbound. For the southbound TBM, it has completed its work in early August 2014. As for the northbound TBM, which suffered damage as a result of flooding, it resumed operation in advance in early July 2014, and the 2 TBMs have been reinstalled. And in November 2014, they have resumed excavation or drilling works in the north side track. As for Shek-Kong sidings and rescue sidings, the completion works have largely been completed for the 14 buildings. You can see from the pictures that the side and the tracks inside the depot have been laid. As for the 3 contracts from Changuk Chun to Hoiting Road, 16 kilometers have been completed, and tracks are being laid. As for the XRL terminus, the connecting tunnels, the 80% have been of the excavation works have been completed, and concrete structural works have been completed. 65% of the concrete structural works have been completed. As for the West Kowloon North terminus, progress is slower than expected because blasting is now being carried out on pilot basis. It's grouting works are still behind schedule, and we have begun the blasting works at its site on a trial basis in September 2014 to expedite the progress of excavation. Depending on approval from relevant departments, we plan to close in the first quarter of 2015 the northbound, a section of the northbound Lincheng Road to spare more space for works to be carried out. On the whole, 85% of the excavation works have been completed, and 40% of the concrete structural works have been completed for the terminus. As for the temporary steel framework process is being carried out. The relevant works are very complicated. The project team has stepped up monitoring and is closely liaising with the contractor and the designer. As for the south, terminus south, 98% of the excavation works have been completed. 75% of the construction or the concrete structural works have been completed, and 33% of the works area has been handed over for E&M works. Finally, on E&M works, in the tunnels for which works have been completed, cablings are being laid, and also electricity supplies are being installed. As for the terminus, the transformer rooms, etc., are being constructed. So, in conclusion, for today's briefing, overall speaking, 60% or above of the whole project has been completed. The XRL project is very complex and very challenging, and there are 3 key projects that we should be concerned about, including the cross-boundary tunnel and the Yunlong part, the tunnel section between Cheseng-gong and Taipo-gong and West Kowloon Terminus North. And the MTRCL will work closely with the contractors to ensure that the project can be completed by the end of 2017.
Thank you. 7 members are going to ask questions. Well, each will have 4 minutes each, including questions and answers. And let's see if we have time for a second round. First, Mr. Wong Kwok-wai, Gary FAN Kwok-wai, to be followed by Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Mr. Michael Tian, myself, and Ms. Claudia Mo. Anyone more? If not, Mr. Wong Kwok-wai, you go first. Thank you, Chairman. The public are very concerned about the XRL project. I have 2 questions for the administration. According to the progress report, about 63.6% of the overall project is completed. But for 8108 critical contract, 40% of the concrete parts are completed. However, for excavation works is 84% completed, and the former is only half of the latter, and it's also a far cry from the overall 63.2% completion. So for the concrete works, 41% completed. How are you going to catch up? So this is first part of my question. And second, in the northern part of NT, we have cave-in works. We noticed that last year we had once-in-a-century flood there, causing a major disruption in excavation, and the TBMs were flooded and could not operate. Now they have resumed operation. I'd like to ask the administration and the MTRCL. We're told that by late 2014 the project will be completed, but in between there will be inclement weather and there may be another rainstorm. So I'd like to know what precaution has been taken to prevent recurrence of similar incidents. Thank you. Undersecretary, please. I will give the floor to the MTRCL. Thank you. Regarding the concrete structural works, yes, the percentage completion is lower. It's because before concreting, we have to excavate the bedrock first. The percentage is lower at the time being, for the time being, but our plan is to remove the bedrock, and after that is done, we'll be able to make up for the slippage. Regarding the cave-ins and floods, I'll give the floor to Mr. Tang, our General Manager, to answer. Thank you. So in contract 824, the flood damaged our TBM, and some temporary slopes could not withstand the rainstorm, and some of the drains were blocked. After that, we've conducted a review of the whole site, and we've taken all precautionary measures. In subsequent rainstorms, our prevention works could withstand the pressure, and the permanent works are now completed. So the flood prevention ability is now greatly enhanced, and we're confident the rainstorms will not affect our works anymore. hope that in the coming 2 years you have sufficient contingency measures. Thank you. Mr. Gary Fan. The XRL is unprecedentedly costly in Hong Kong. My question is for Mr. Yao. Well, in October, the Independent Board Committee issued a report and put the blame of the slippage on the government because of the clearance arrangements, because the arrangements not yet confirmed. As a result, the terminal design could not be finalized. I'd like to ask the Bureau whether it has assessed the impact of this problem on the overall timetable of the XRL. Is there any deadline for deciding how co-location of facilities can be done, and whether the facilities for customs and excise and immigration will be kept? Because Mr. Frederick Ma said in November last year to the press that if there can be no co-location of facilities, then the XRL would be just a little speedier through train. In 2011, when the funding application was being vetted by LegCo, there was already questions by councillors or by legislators that this would be a white elephant. So I'd like to ask the administration whether there is any fixed timetable for making that decision. Mr. Yao. The administration has pointed out very clearly that the co-location of facilities is of utmost importance to the overall operation of the XRL. So we have been pressing ahead in full swing as far as this is concerned. But we do understand that very complicated legal and constitutional issues are involved. And as we said, we have got an interdepartmental team liaising with the main authorities in a very proactive manner. And this work is still ongoing. Our target is clear. And that is, by the time the XRL Hong Kong section is commissioned, we can have co-location of facilities here. We hope that the project can be commissioned in late 2017, and we hope that by that target date, we can have the issue resolved so that the XRL can maximize its benefits. Of course, we do not underestimate the difficulties involved, and that's why we're working very hard. And as for the West Kowloon terminus, because we're prepared for the arrangements, we have reserved enough space. When both the MTL said, no, this is not about your wish. I'd like to know whether you have any bottom line. Do you have a deadline for making a decision to ensure that the project can be completed? Because we're told that the daily cost of the project is $3 to $5 million. So you have to make that decision sooner or later. And when? Because the project has started 4 years already, and yet the issue is not yet resolved. Well, I was about to say this. Now that we have this PTC and the commissioning date of end 2017, we are now working very hard to work towards that target. Mr. Chan Kam-nam, yes, we are very concerned about this co-location of facilities, or this juxtaposed border control. Now, we know that this is important because this is critical to the whole XRL. Without it, the project benefits will be much minimized. So, in this progress report, there is very little about the financial aspect. We only know that the project overrun is now up to $6.5 billion. I'd like to know whether this will be able to cover everything and whether there will be proper control of this budget overrun. Now, in the LegCo, the Pan-Democrats engaged in a non-cooperation campaign. Should there be further project overrun, and if there is no timely approval by the Council, what will be the likely effect? Have you done any assessment? Yes, we do understand that we have to finalize the arrangement for collocation of CIQ facilities. We're aware of the importance regarding the estimate and the approval of contracts. I'll do a summary and then MTRCL can supplement. As far as I understand, as at end September 2014, 42 major projects have been approved together with other minor projects. The project amount approved is near $45 billion, and the cumulative cost is the cumulative expenditure is $41.18 billion. So this is already provided for in the MTRCL's budget. Perhaps the corporation can supplement on cost control. On different occasions, I've explained that as of today, the administration has not received any request from MTRCL for supplementary funding at this moment. However, we will proceed in accordance with the terms in our entrustment agreement. If necessary, if further funds are required, the administration will seek legal advice and make application to the Council in a timely manner. The MTRCL may want to supplement on its financial position. Dr. Wang? Thank you. We have approved all major contracts. We've only got a few left, such as landscaping or beautification of stations and maintenance of our rolling stocks. However, over 65% of the projects now completed and all excavation is completed. The most uncertain part is the WKC terminal. We will control the project cost to minimal level. Mr. Chen. According to administration, the MTRCL has not sought any supplementary funding yet. But as we all know, the budget has overrun by $6.5 billion. This has to be paid sooner or later. The MTRCL may pay out of its pocket first, but sooner or later it has to seek funding approval from the administration. Perhaps we wait for the second round, Mr. Chen. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, of course, we are concerned about the collocation of CIQ facilities. But how is it related to the works at the terminus? Please tell us the impact of this delayed decision on the completion of the terminus. And it's quite rare for your previous reports to detail the monitoring role of the Highways Department, but this report is rather different. You have a very detailed account of the part played by the Highways Department in seeking reports and papers from the MTRCL. I'd like to know whether you can provide records of papers on what has been done by the Highways Department in the past 4 to 5 years. Our correspondences between the Highways Department and the MTRCL, so that we can know whether the Highways Department has played as an obvious role in monitoring the works of the corporation.
And the Secretary. Well, on Mr. Wu's question, our target is clear. Well, I'm ready to answer his question. We have a timetable. The target is for the Commission in 2017, and we're now discussing with the mainland authorities on the co-location arrangement, including how the space of the WKT can be utilized, and we're still in the process of discussing with the mainland authority. For the second part of the question, I'll defer to the Director of Highways. Thank you, Chairman. On monitoring by the Highways Department, the paper sets out in detail our work. The MTRCL is required to submit regularly progress reports, and there is a mechanism for the Highways Department to monitor the progress, including a monitoring committee chaired by me to supervise and monitor the progress of the MTRCL's works and the financial situation as set out clearly in the paper. We have documentation on all our works, including the request for supplementary information from the MTRCL. We have correspondence, and they're all on record. But can they be given to the subcommittee for reference? In fact, the MTRCL has provided all the papers in the data room. I have checked the data room. I have never seen any detailed comments or reports from the Highways Department. Anything to supplement, Under Secretary? Perhaps let me explain in greater detail. Well, this paper sets out the monitoring work of the Highways Department. Since the commencement of the project, the Highways Department has been performing its duty. Perhaps members feel that we are not transparent enough and we have not explained ourselves more clearly. That's why we have provided this paper to explain in detail what we have been doing. Mr. Michael Tian. A number of questions, Chairman. First, for the MTRCL. Now, about contract 810A, construction of WKT North. As I understand, in November 2013, when you attended the electrical meeting, approximately so and so % of the structural works have been completed, and if my memory serves me right, it was about 30%. So if only 11% have been completed in a year, you still have 3 years to go till 2017. So 33 plus 41 means 74%, and it's still not yet completed after 3 years. Unless the figures are wrong, please explain to me. Also, about co-location of CIQ facilities, I have a pragmatic or practical question. If you want mainland officials to enforce the law in Hong Kong, you need to have local legislation, right? And after it's passed in electrical, you'll be subject to judicial review, and we have judicial independence in Hong Kong, and it may be against the Constitution. So if ultimately mainland officials cannot enforce the law in Hong Kong, what, in the worst scenario, what fallback mechanism do you have? Does it mean that there is a customs clearance in Hong Kong and then another one in Guangzhou, or will there be a checkpoint at every station? We need to know the worst scenario. We need to know what kind of white elephant this is, how big this white elephant is. Lastly, on the cost overrun by $6.5 billion, sooner or later you will come for additional funding. And then we will be asking whether the $6.5 billion should be borne by the government solely or the MTRCL solely. And then you may be explaining that it should be borne by the MTRCL, and the MTRCL would say that they are just entrusting contractors to do the work. So have you assessed the risk? MTRCL should go first. Chairman, on the concrete structural works, back then it was about 30%. Now it's about 41%. We understand the situation, but we have to understand that for concrete works and for the extension of the concrete slab, we're competing for space in the same works area. And based on the existing circumstances, our plan is that we may need to extend working hours or resources to expedite the progress of the concrete works so that it could be completed in time. So in the past year, only 11% was completed, and yet you want us to believe that in the next 3 years, some 70% can be completed. So you have a special plan. But, well, Mr. Tian, please let him finish his answer, because there isn't much time left. Yes, but this is my question. What make you change your mind to turn away from this Plan A? Well, we increase the number of working hours. We also increase manpower for different subcontracted works. I'm next, and I have another question. Well, let's wait and see if there is a second round. And let me ask a simple question, a short one. We understand the technical difficulties. This project is very complex. But what about delay caused by manpower shortage? Whose responsibility is this, according to your paper? Originally, there should be some 6,000 workers for the XRL project. Now you've only hired some 5,300 and some 350 short, or 20% short. If there are further delays, then should we put the blame on the hard ground condition or manpower shortage? And for insufficient manpower, has it to do with subcontracting or what? Chairman, I'll defer to MTRCL to take the question on manpower. Dr. Wong. Thank you, Chairman. You may understand that because of the tight manpower situation, we also experience the same problem for the for the XRL project. And we have a shortage ranging from 15 to 20%, and we have several responsive measures. First of all, we adopt a hire first, train later approach to increase the number of workers. Secondly, our contractors have applied for importation of labor under the SLS scheme to relieve the tight manpower situation. My question is if there are further delays, because in the beginning there have been manpower shortages, then whose responsibility is it? Is it the government or the MTRCL? Well, that's according to the agreement. We can consider the situation, but this is quite complex. We cannot attribute this to just one single reason. On contingency provisions, according to your paper, the contingency provisions have more or less been used up. and we still need to discuss with you about the overrun. What about the $6.5 billion? Is it part of the contingency, or is it covered by the contingency provisions, or is it a separate sum to be applied for with LegCo? Well, Chairman, you asked two questions. Well, first of all, you ask whether whose responsibility it is in relation to the manpower shortage, and will act in accordance with the entrustment agreement. According to the agreement, the MTRCL should duly complete the works, and any to avoid any delay or revision of the timetable, and we will follow up on the issue of responsibility in accordance with the agreement. As for additional funding to be applied for, and also to answer Mr. Tian's question at this stage, we still have not decided when or if we are to come to LegCo to apply for additional funding, because recently we have sought information from MTRCL on the this sum, $71.52 billion, that we have asked for additional information, including the detailed calculation of all the costs involved, before we could do our assessment or estimate. And we need to be very careful in scrutinizing their proposal and seek legal advice. So at present, we cannot answer the question on how on our share. Ms. Claudia Mo. Thank you, Chairman. Well, even as of now, the government has continued to say that the XRL project is highly complex and challenging. Well, this is like saying the Pope is Catholic. Please save your breath. Clearly, you have not done enough at the initial stage, and now you are putting the blame on manpower shortage. I'm sorry, but all the answers are bureaucratic. All the answers are vague, are empty, seeking legal advice, everything programmed to complete, and the amount. Well, all the answers amount to nothing. So can you tell us clearly about collocation of CIQ facilities? At this point, you're still talking about a constitutional issue, and it's really shocking to hear you giving the same answer at this stage, because everybody knows XRL could be an express rail because of the collocation arrangement. It is now suggested that it could be completed in the end of 2017. So it's not just a white white elephant. It is a useless white elephant. So give us a concrete timetable. Don't tell us what you will consider and that you'll see how it goes. And about the cost overrun by $6.5 billion, is there any estimate on any further cost overrun? Or will the figure blow up to $80 billion or even $100 billion? Have you really a set of estimates in mind? Don't come back and tell us again that now it's $81.2 billion. Two questions. Under Secretary. Oh, Chairman, in answering other members' questions, we have made it clear that we are working on the collocation arrangement. And Ms. Mo would also understand that constitutionally speaking, this is a great challenge, and we're still exploring alternatives to collocation arrangement. But at present, what we're focusing on is on collocation of CIQ facilities. As for other concerns raised by members, the basic law, our system, well, we are still exploring these issues. Well, Chairman, he is repeating his answer already. I want to know, can he guarantee that co-location can definitely be implemented? Otherwise, what's the point of having an XRL? What's the point of having an express rail link? Chairman, from the perspective of the government or the operator, we're very clear that co-location is very important for the whole XRI project. Because of its importance, we're focusing our efforts in this regard. As for the second part of the question, the $6.5 billion overrun, as I explained just now, the Highways Department has also looked into the figure and raised some questions, and we need to wait for MTRCL's response before we make pass any judgment on the $71.52 billion latest budget and see whether we need additional funding. Members have been very keen in asking questions. Several members have yet to speak, and I am quite concerned that we may not have a second round.
Mr. Tony Zhang. Thank you, Chairman. Of course, the progress of the XRL is very close to our hearts because of past year, we all felt that a lot leaves to be desired as far as the monitoring is concerned. The paper has got a number of indicators for monitoring the progress, and the administration also gave us some statistics in its PowerPoint presentation. The project is only 63.6% completed as at September 2014. And we're told that are three more critical projects. 810A is among the three. And the figures shown here are a bit different from the chart. So is it right that the figures contained in the PowerPoint presentation are more current than what it was in September last year? We're told that there are three more critical projects. Can we be given information on the planned progress of these projects so that we'll know whether the progress is ahead or behind schedule? I'm sure there is such information for monitoring purpose. And then on the PowerPoint presentation, we're told about the excavation and concrete structural works. And in annex, we have more information. I'd like to know why we are still given the state as at end September. For instance, the target completion date is still in 2017, and I think the extent of project overrun is also changed. Members may recall that before there was news about possible delay, progress reports were given on a monthly basis, on a bi-yearly basis, but now it is upgraded to quarterly reports. So this paper was prepared for October, so we gave the situation up to end September. Now, if you want the state at end December, then you will have to wait for the next quarterly report later. So indeed, there is a time lag. If you like the most current situation, I believe the MTRCL can supplement such meetings. And perhaps I did not make myself clear enough. The latest project estimate, according to the MTRCL, is $71.52 billion. Perhaps I said $71.5 billion. Let there be no misunderstanding. And can the MTRCL please further elaborate on the progress of the 3 critical projects? Yes, there are 3. The WKT A238 project. That is the tunneling. Can I ask because of time constraints, can you give us a progress report on the progress of these projects? What should it be all the way from now to 2017 end? Can this be provided? Yes, this can be detailed in the next progress report. Why do we have to wait until the next report? Can we be given earlier? Please provide the paper as early as possible. Mr. Frankie Yik, this morning, 2 legislators have asked about whether there can be the co-location arrangement and whether that will have an impact on the construction of WKT. And according to the Undersecretary, they expect the co-location arrangements to be in place, and the space is already reserved. Is that true? Both the administration and the MTRCL are working towards a co-location arrangement in Hong Kong. So you are prepared for it, or you expect that to happen. I think Mr. Michael Tian made a very good question. According to the mailing authorities, it was okay for them to have this arrangement. It all depends on whether the Hong Kong side is ready. The Undersecretary has been very obscure in his replies, only telling us that they have working very hard. But this is a complicated issue and very controversial. Will you start preparation work earlier? Because if at the end of the day we don't have co-location of facilities, then the XRL is a waste, is useless. If you need to legislate, well, this is going to take a long time. So shouldn't you start telling us your plan as early as possible so that we can psychologically prepared? Please don't keep on telling us that you're working very hard when we don't know what you're actually doing. So can you tell us earlier? As I said, we do appreciate that the community are concerned about this, and they would want something for us to consult them as early as possible. So when we have a feasible and practical plan, we will disclose to the public as early as possible. So you're not ready to tell us now yet. Let's turn to another topic. You have carrying out trial blasting at WKT. So it's just a trial. I'd like to know how are your trials proceeding? I think Mr. Yik has made a good point, because this will help to address the question by Mr. Tian about the progress of concrete structural works. The first trial started in September. We have been increasing the charge rate to the limit that it would not affect traffic and the neighborhood. So the trial blasting works are now completed. So in early July, we will have full blasting. So there is the likelihood that you can make up for the time lost. Yes. And the second question relates to labor shortage. This morning you have tabled a paper to tell us the labor shortage situation. You have 5,300 odd workers working there. What is the percentage of foreign or imported labor there? We have about 400 odd imported workers. Less than 10%. That's around 7%, right? Sorry? 423 are imported workers on XRL Hong Kong section. What about approval by LAB to expedite the vetting process of importation of labor? From what I heard, progress is very slow. Is that correct? I think we are working much faster. The processing time is now reduced to 6 months, but of course some applications are rejected. Mr. Wong. Mr. Leung, can you speak closer to the microphone? Well, I think you are just bluffing. You are telling us lies. We will keep hearing that there will be project overrun and we don't know how much money we're going to squander. You give us the same thing every time. Well, even in a football match, if a team has lost, it's nothing to do with you. You claim that there is nothing to do with the football players as the referee who has done badly. Well, the XLL is a tunnel. It will be the MTRCL's asset. So how come it will not foot part of the bill for project overrun? You have a contract to work out the share to be borne by the corporation. Shortage of labor. You look at the contractors and the private sector. And Johnson, the contractor for cleaning the washrooms in Lachko, if all of a sudden it claims that there is no workers, what will happen? Will rescind the contract, because if the Simply 4 has caused our chairman, Mr. Chen, to slip, then what will happen? So what are you saying? The other party claimed that collocation is possible, and here you say that it's not possible. Now, if the other side is lying, then it's a waste of time. And if they are telling the truth, then you should proceed as soon as possible. Ms. Margaret, when she opposed the project, she already told us about this, and the pro-establishment camp wanted to pass the application as soon as possible. C.Y. Leung said that there are always people, a small bunch of people in the community who think that if you talk loud enough, you have the truth, and that the universal suffrage is a solution to everything. All right, I will not refute his remarks first. There are people in the MTLC who think that lies represent the truth, and that they are being very responsible. But Mr. Yao Sheng-meng, we all feel that you are being irresponsible. There is no accountability. You say that it's hard to work out the cost. How come you've got a formula when you want to raise fares? Why don't you have a formula for contractors? Yao Sheng-meng, don't you have a formula to monitor the contractors? We'll talk about tens of billions of dollars. This is no joke. We'll ask you to fork out $50 billion for universal retirement protection. You say that there is no money. The money is now used to spend on such projects. You ask any football club if it has lost by such a wide margin, then the club manager won't be able to keep his position. So Yao Sheng-meng, why don't you resign and ask the other side to monitor the progress? My question is, if there are further project budget overruns, who should be held accountable? And please explain to us how complicated it is. If Yao Sheng-meng is found to be in the wrong, then he should be penalized. If it is the MTLCL's fault, then it should be penalized. I'm afraid you don't have time for administration's replies. We only have 4 minutes each. So we have close to $10 billion left. They are non-project related, and they are government entrusted projects, including footbridges and roads and subways. So I'd like to know whether there is budget overrun on that side as well.
Well, second question. Now, comparing to the West Island line, which has just been commissioned, there was also a cost overrun of about 7%, some $10 billion. And the MTRCL had to bear the risk. On the contrary, for the XRL project, the MTRCL would rely on the government to ask for additional funding. So, have you considered adopting that model so that the MTRCL would be more prudent and responsible in carrying out the works? Under Secretary, let me respond to the second question first. Initially, when considering awarding the contract of the XRL and the West Island line, we considered the nature of these two railway projects. For the XRL project, it's an entrustment project because the property ultimately belongs to the government, and the honourable member just now misunderstood that the property would be handed over to MTRCL to make more profits, but in fact it belongs to the government. I know, that's why I asked whether you have reviewed the situation. For the West Island line, the cost overrun was much more smaller. So have you reviewed the approach to make MTRCL more responsible? Well, Chairman, as said just now, for the XRL property, it belongs to the government, whereas for the West Island line, it belongs to the MTRCL. So for the cost overrun is borne by the MTRCL. In the West Island line case, similarly, the profits will be would go solely to the MTRCL. Whereas for the XRL project, the model is very different because the property belongs to the government and the part of the profit would go to MTRCL. As to which one is better, you may say that this is the first project using the entrustment agreement model. The second project is the Sha-Tin Central Link, and we will of course gauge the cost effectiveness, but these two models are very different. Now, on the second point, on the overrun arrangement, I want to explain that under unforeseen circumstances and where the circumstances are reasonable, the government would bear the cost overrun regardless of the extent of the overrun. Although this on this occasion the overrun may be up to 10% of the total cost, is not a very huge percentage. So that's my explanation, and see whether I have time to supplement the first answer. Well, Under Secretary, you don't have much time to supplement your answer. Mr. Tang, perhaps you have to write in and ask for further explanation from the administration. Dr. Priscilla Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Now, about this delay of the XRL project for residents in the West Kowloon is really a great suffer for them. If you only drive there, you would know how the neighborhood is affected. There is always traffic congestion. The other concern of mine is about labor shortage. Because of this XRL project delay, other projects are also delayed. So on construction manpower, I hope you could tell us frankly whether you have sufficient manpower at the moment. Don't tell us again and again that bit by bit the project will be delayed. Please resolve the problem in one go. For the Kwun extension and other railway projects, we don't want the same problem of manpower to occur, causing more delays. Now, the third question is about co-location. We have been discussing this issue since the last term. And frankly speaking, during the last term, when we discussed the issue, the problem didn't lie with the mainland authority. We were concerned that we have two different jurisdictions, and then for this co-location arrangement, and this happened to me as well. Say if someone commits a crime and travels all the way along with the victim of a knife attack from Hong Kong to mainland, then what jurisdiction should be, or which jurisdiction should be responsible? And you really should focus your discussion on on the real problems, and the electrical should also discuss with you. 2 years ago, when we discussed the problem of co-location, we raised some issues, but were those issues the same as the issues we're facing now? I believe they may have some views, but I think their concerns can be resolved, because even in other jurisdictions, there are co-location arrangements. Don't shun the issues, because you need to put the issues in the open for discussion to solve the problem together. You should bring back the problems and consider the issues and see whether we should discuss the issues at the AJLS panel, and see if the legal sector can play a part in resolving the problems. Under Secretary, on Dr. Priscilla Leung's questions, especially on the third question, she has made some very good comments. We're not shunning the issues. We feel, however, that it will be more responsible for us to give a more detailed explanation when things mature. And she's right in pointing out that there are similar arrangements in other jurisdictions, and we do have ways to resolve the problems, but we need to wait for the discussion to reach a mature stage before we disclose more to the public. As for the West Kowloon district, we understand the problem. We will try our best. As for the issue of manpower, if possible, I will invite the Highways Department to give you a more detailed explanation. Now, members, since we have overrun for this item for 25 minutes already, I won't give a second round for members to ask questions. Now, on co-location, this is a concern raised by many members. Please go back and consider the issue. Next, Mr. Tang Ka-piu asks a question and he seeks further supplementary information in writing. Also, something about the progress, also in writing as well. I need a reply, Chairman, on supervision and monitoring. Can all the papers in relation to the Highways Department's monitoring and verification or supervision be provided? He hasn't answered my question. Yes, I urge them to follow up on the issue. Chairman, what about my question? What is the worst scenario in the event that collocation is considered unconstitutional? Well, as I said just now, we're all concerned about collocation of CIQ facilities, and there are also other problems apart from constitutional issues. And we urge the administration to come back and report to us in greater detail on collocation as soon as possible. We really have a tight schedule today, so we have to move on to the next item, the progress update of the South Island Line East and Kwun Tong Line extension. Let's invite the relevant officials in first.
OK， 或者我哋而家先請局長介紹下。
So, Under Secretary, please walk us through the paper. Chairman, allow me to give a brief opening remark. In November last year, we submitted a progress update on the Sha-Tin Central Link SIL and Kwun Tong extension. But at the last meeting on the 24th of November, we did not have time to report to members on the progress for the railway projects SILE and KTE. So today, I'll brief members on the progress of these two projects. At present, SILE and KTE works are commencing in full steam, as reported to members in the middle of last year on the various on the progress of various railway projects. We will report to members and the public on a quarterly basis the progress of the various projects. Now, for the SILE project, the the progress is still affected by the underpinning works, and to catch up with the timetable, we still need to further expedite the excavation. As for the Kwun Tong East, Kwun Tong extension, the critical excavation works for the platform tunnel between the east and west concourses is still underway, and there are still risks to the target commissioning at mid-2016. I will defer to the MTRCL representatives to brief members on the progress of these two projects. Dr. Wong. Together with Mark and Mr. Chow, will report to members about these two projects.
So I'll just recap on the scope of the South Island Line project. It's a medium capacity railway with 3-car trains for new station at Admiralty and then a 7-kilometre alignment running to Ap Plai Chau with 5 new stations. Move on to the progress of the works, starting at Ap Plai Chau, South Horizon Station and Lei Tung Station. Structural works are ongoing. And that the lower parts of the station have been completed, and that has allowed the track work on Ap Plai Chau to be completed. At Lei Tung B and also Lei Tung Entrance A, we are carrying out the structural works for the entrances. Move on to the works in the Wong Chuk Hang area, on Ocean Park and Wong Chuk Hang stations. The structural works have been completed, and the E&M and the architectural fit-out works are in progress. At the depot, the structural works have also been completed, and the electrical and mechanical fit-out is also well advanced, and the first train has been delivered to the depot. The 10 trains required for South Island Line are all in Hong Kong, with the other 9 trains still at the depot on Lantau Island. Moving on to the progress of the Nam Fung Tunnel, which connects the southern part of the project to the works at Admiralty. The excavation works for the tunnel have been completed, and we have a breakthrough into the 901 part of the project. We also have the structural works for the ventilation buildings at the Nam Fung Portal and at Hong Kong Park in progress. The lining works and the remaining concrete works in Nam Fung Tunnel are also in progress. Moving on to Admiralty Station, the works in the cavern and the platform tunnels, the excavation has been completed and the structural works are now in progress. The cut and cover box, which is the open cut excavation for the station that lies to the north of the Island Line, some of the excavation work has reached formation, but the excavation works in the vicinity of the Island Line and the underpinning works, that is still ongoing. So for the underpinning works, we have encountered difficulties achieving our planned rate of progress. We are continuing on a safety first principle. This work has been undertaken beneath the existing Island Line, so safety is our #1 priority, and we are very careful in terms of the methods and the systems we implement for that work. We also have encountered some difficulty with the rock conditions at various parts, and although we have achieved our planned rate of progress for the excavation at some parts of the work, it has been very difficult in other areas. So summing up for the project, the works in the Southern District are generally in line with the original plan and schedule. Nam Fung Tunnel, we've broken through to the Admiralty Station and the excavation has been completed. There remain challenges at Admiralty Station, particularly for the underpinning works. We're working towards a target of the end of 2016 for completing the project, but more certainty on that programme will be available when we complete the very technically challenging underpinning works beneath the Island Line. Thank you.
OK， 咁都講埋觀塘線啦，好嘛？
Right, can we also be briefed on the progress of the KTE? Thank you. Yes, this is an extension of the existing Kwun line from Yau Ma Tei Station to Ho Man Tin and Wangpo, so there will be 2 new stations. We started in mid-2011, and so far we're over 70% complete. Ho Man Tin will be an interchange station for Sha Tin Central Link and Kwun Tong line, and it started in the 4th quarter of 2014 and is already 65% completed. The structural works have now reached the plant of the CSL platform. And we will start the installation of buildings and equipment after the structural works are completed. As for the tunnel will start is already completed from Yau Ma Tei Station to Ho Man Tin Station. And as for the ventilation shaft, we are now working on the structures and also the partition walls inside. And for the tunnel walls between Ho Man Tin and Wangpo Station, we are now working from Mong Wu Street, and the tunnels are over 80% completed. At Ho Man Tin Station, we've also got EIPW, including footbridges, pedestrian subways, and also lifts. And this part is over 65% completed. We have a covered walkway straddling Checkham Road, and is now completed. And the existing footbridge will be demolished in January 2015. Regarding the pedestrian links between Ho Man Tin estate and also the stations, we are now carrying out the installation works, and it will be completed by the middle of this year. The Whampoa station has got the western and eastern congresses, and we are now excavating the tunnel in between. Regarding the platform tunnel linking up the two parts of the tunnel, it is a critical project and is expected to be completed in the second quarter of this year. The Congress in the west is at the junction of Hong Kong Road and Techman Street. The excavation is over 95% completed, and we have just installed the main structures. The western junction, the Western Congress, is between Shin King Street and Tek Hon Street, and the excavation is also 90% completed. This shows you the situation inside the Congress, because we started from underground. Working space is limited, and this has made the works more challenging. In order to expedite the works, we have urged the contractor to introduce large-scale excavation plant. Overall speaking, Whampoa Station is still the most critical and challenging part of the KTE. The tunnel linking up two parts of the Congress is subject to a lot of site constraints. According to our progress now, the target completion date is mid-2016, and we will report to the public as well as the Council on a regular basis our progress. Thank you. 7 members have raised their hands to ask questions. So each will have 4 minutes for both questions and answers. Mr. Gary FAN Kwok-wai, Michael Tan, Tony Zi, Priscilla Leung, Tang Ka-piu, and Chen Kam Lam. Mr. Gary FAN. The MTRCL promised that by end 2014 we can be given a paper on the date of commissioning, and according to paragraph 29, because of the Occupy Central event, blasting and excavation of works at Admiralty Station is not delayed, and the MTRCL has to assess the impact of the Occupy Central event, and therefore no progress report can be submitted yet. I think the administration and the pro-establishment camp must love the Occupy Central event, because they can now put the blame on the event. So, Dr. Wong from the MTRCL, have you give up on your professionalism? You're now accomplice to the government. You are trying to shift the blame on the Occupy Central movement for all slippage, because according to the paper, the Highways Department admitted that the underpinnings are not very satisfactory, and there is a lot of risk to the target commissioning date, and that's according to paragraph 30. And then the Occupy Central has made it difficult for works to be carried out. However, the egress was reopened on the 14th of October, so there was only a closure of 14 days. So in June last year, we were already told that there was over a 6-month delay. So the road or the egress was closed for 17 days, but there is such a big delay. It's because the MTRCL cannot tell us when the underpinnings can be completed and when the impact can be minimized, and as a result is using the Occupy Central as an excuse so that it will not give a target completion date or commissioning date to the public. Well, we have just listed out the facts in the paper. We have no intention to say that the Occupy Central event has caused a slippage of the project. So why don't you give us a timetable or a program? Now, we have listed out all the facts in the paper. And as we said, the major cause of the delay is in progress of underpinnings and also reinforcement works. Perhaps the cooperation can supplement. Thank you. The most critical part of the SILE is excavation near the underpinnings. We said that in September there was the Occupy Central event disrupting the delivery of explosives or transportation of spoil from the excavation sites, but that is not the major cause of the delay. And as for the target commissioning date, as said in the report, we're still working towards the target commissioning date of end 2016, and the excavation and underpinning works are still challenging. Can you give us the monthly progress reports from September to December last year so that we can have everything clear? Can you give us monthly progress reports covering September to December 2014? Yes, this can be provided. That means we can have a progress report. I think they're saying that it can be seen in this paper. Mr. Wong Kwok-heng, residents of Hong Kong Island were subject to disruption and nuisance caused by the Occupy movement. This is regrettable and is an indisputable fact that SILE was affected according to the paper in between the 29th of September to the 22nd of December or 22nd of October. Explosives could not be delivered by the mines division to the site. No matter what Mr. Gary Fan said, the impact of the Occupy movement on the progress was significant. Of course, we want the MTLCL to do its utmost to make up for the time lost. So there is no point in arguing further. Regarding the underpinning works, we're told by the MTLCL that that's the most challenging bit and the major cause for the delay. And we're told that the target commissioning date is end 2016 with substantial risks. I'd like to know what you can do to minimize the impact of the delay at Admiralty so that the SILE can be commissioned by end 2016, because our residents in the Southern District are very unhappy for the delays. So can you give us any undertaking as far as the commissioning date is concerned? And in the Southern District, works have progressed quite smoothly. Can the road traffic be can a normal road traffic resume as soon as possible, because currently there's so many road diversions? MTLCL, Dr. Wang. In the past 2 months, our underpinning works has improved as far as progress is concerned. Perhaps Mark can supplement. And please also supplement on the road traffic of the southern districts and whether resumption can be done earlier. Mark, please.
Start with the underpinning works. We are actually working on a 7-day-a-week, 24-hour basis to progress those works as quickly as we can. We are very mindful of the safety issues, so we have to take care in terms of the method and how we control the works. But in terms of bringing as much resource and effort to speed the works along, we are doing that. And it's a continual review of any opportunities to give improved progress. Recently, we have deployed more plant and more resource to try and speed up the work. So that's Admiralty, but it still remains critical to the overall programme. For the works in Southern District, certainly for Wong Chuk Hang Ocean Park stations, you can see if you go to the area that they are quite well advanced. There are a lot of road works and drainage works in progress. What you see in terms of the surface road works, there's always a lot of utility and drainage works which is quite difficult to complete. But we are intending to complete all of that work according to the original schedule, and as soon as we can, we will hand areas back and make the roads available for public use.
OK， 好，下一位田北辰議員。
Next, Mr. Michael Tian. For the 70-odd days of the Occupy Central event, I think the performance of MTRCL has been quite positive. It has contributed to society. So on behalf of members of the public, I'd like to show my appreciation for your work, because I know a number of bus routes had been suspended, and for the passengers during rush hours, had you not taken or absorbed the additional passengers, and in the event of other major incidents, then it could be disastrous. Now, on construction, all along, I understand that you have been very concerned about safety and other aspects, and you have done quite well. But on assessment, or internal assessment, I feel quite puzzled, because in June you estimated a delay of 6 months. So for a delay of 6 months, it means that it should commencement could be made in the middle of 2016, and now. Well, you also admitted that the major cause of the delay had more to do with the underpinning works than the Occupy Central event. So, on your assessment of the progress of the works, you need to do more to salvage the public's confidence in the MTRCL. Another question for the Undersecretary. Very high risk, or risks. Now, as an engineer, having heard these words, to me it's meaningless. Now, for the independent report, there are some figures from independent experts, some 60 or 70%. Now, Undersecretary, can you give us, in concrete terms, what's meant by very high risk or risks? How many percent? And certain risks or still risks, etc. Pardon my language competency. Please tell us how many percent are you talking about? Because my constituents also ask me all the time. 2 questions. Undersecretary. I think for the first question, I'll defer to the MTRCL to talk about their professional assessment. As for the second question, in our papers, we have been trying to quantify the level of risks in terms of ratio or percentage. However, people still ask, in terms of the level of risk, whether it's a great risk or minimal risks, and we therefore also express it in a more easily understood terms. And perhaps I can defer to the director to explain about the level of risk. Any percentage available? Thank you, Mr. Tian, for your concern on the point about risks. As Undersecretary puts it, we would like to put it in terms that can be understood more easily. Well, many may understand more easily, but not me. Can you tell me whether you have a percentage in mind? We cannot express it in terms of percentage because we've asked experts whether it's possible to express it in a more accurate terms, perhaps in percentage. But as set out in the paper, in terms of some emergencies and other events happening for the SILE, we do have more risks, and that's why we expressed it in this phrase of a very high risk. Now, that has to do with the underpinning works. Next, Mr. Tony Chair. Thank you, Chairman. Of course, I agree with Mr. Michael Tian that the MTR services, especially during the Occupy Central event, have been superb. And many passengers, members of the public, rely on the MTR services, and disruption was brought to a minimum as a result. And along with members of the public, I hope that for these two railway projects, the progress can be expedited as soon as possible, so that by 2016, these two districts can also be served by the MTR. Now, earlier, and as pointed out in para 37 of the paper, earlier it was reported that there was also a delay for the Whampoa station. Now the situation is still being assessed according to the paper. I want to know how far are we lagging behind. And according to media report, there is also a cost overrun of up to 30%. And according to the paper, this Whampoa station will be one of the stations, or one of the issues, or one of the causes of delay of this KTE's commissioning. Can you tell me something about the critical path? Yes, MTRCL, Dr. Wong. Thank you, Chairman. About the Whampoa station is still it is a critical issue. Maybe our general manager can supplement. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the KTE, the critical point is about Whampoa station, and as I mentioned, about the platform tunnel between the east and west concourses of the station. The excavation works have just commenced. We anticipate that because of the uncertain geological conditions, we have yet to accurately assess when the excavation works can be completed for the platform tunnel. We expect that in the second quarter of 2015 it can be completed, and then we can have a more accurate assessment of the progress at Whampoa station. Now, Chairman, again, I want to ask a question on percentage. By how many percent are we lagging behind in terms of the overall project? For Whampoa station, for the excavation works, for the two platforms, we have completed up to 90%. And the main excavation works for the concourses have commenced, and we only experience slight delays. The major delays has to do with the platform tunnel. Now it's now delayed to October, the fourth quarter of this year, before we can commence excavation works for that part. So how far are you lagging behind? You mentioned that excavation works have just commenced. Originally, it's expected to be commenced in the third quarter. Now it's the fourth quarter, so a delay of 3 months. Dr. Priscilla Leung. A few days ago, in cold weather, in the drizzle, Highways Department representatives and the MTRCL representatives paid a visit to the site with me and the residents in the neighborhood. And I came with residents in the area in that morning because it really caused great disruption to the neighborhood. And I gave you the opportunity to explain to the residents the reasons of the delay. Now, I gave you time to answer whether the manpower or the laborers have been deployed away from the KTE project, causing such a delay. And we had a number of consultation meetings, and the explanation has not been accepted by residents. They are very familiar with the geological conditions and the issues contained about underground drainage and utilities. Now, for the delay about this part, you mentioned that you'd like to work round the clock to catch up with the schedule, and the noise problem would get very serious at night. And the project has to go on till the middle of 2016. Now you say you would go back and consider how noise can be minimized. I hope you can explain these 2 points. Dr. Wong? Chairman, in the past, the MTRCL has largely been able to complete the projects on time. As for the Kwun Tong extension and Whampoa station, based on the MTRCL's experience and the information we get from the market, we then estimate the time needed for the project. However, in the course, there have been a number of issues. For example, the overheated activities in the construction industry causing labor shortage, and the varying geological conditions underground. And we're trying our best to minimize delays. And on the erection of noise barriers to minimize noise nuisance, we are doing that already, and I'll defer to Mr. Chow to explain more about that. Now, for Whampoa Station, for individual works, we have dedicated teams to inspect and supervise the work. Basically, on manpower, we have passed the peak period for civil engineering works, and for other infrastructure works, we are also monitoring the manpower situation, and we are liaising with the industry to ensure that we have sufficient manpower. For Whampoa Station, we plan to carry out works round the clock for the excavation of platform tunnel, and we're discussing with the EPD, and we have erected noise shelters, noise sheds, and we have monitoring equipment nearby to comply with the EPD's requirements to ensure that nuisance could be minimized. I'm sorry, your time is up. We still have one more item to go on members' request, so I will extend this meeting by 15 minutes. The meeting will be adjourned at 1, and we still have 4 members waiting to ask questions, and then we'll move on to the next item. Mr. Tang Ka-piu. Thank you, Chairman. We'd like you to explain Shatton Central Link and the XRL, just like the papers for XRL today. Explain to us, for these two projects, be it November or October, explain to us the progress in terms of percentage and your actual progress and the estimated progress. The other point,
甚至因為咁有啲傳媒嘅報
for the SILE, there are concerns over the over safety at Admiralty Station because of the pounding noise. So do let this subcommittee know how complex works at Admiralty Station is.
等先，定係
Undersecretary. The MTLCL perhaps can elaborate on the complexity of the underpinning works as for a site visit from members. As far as I understand, space is limited inside the station, and it may not be desirable to arrange for site visit. Let's see whether it can be done without compromising safety, because the site is rather risky. Perhaps the MTLCL can comment on these 2 points. The progress, the percentage completed. Dr. Wong. Thank you. As at end October, SILE is 79.2% complete. That is against our best indicator, 88.1%. As for KTE, as at end October, the progress is 69.1%. Against 69.6%, which is our target. Sorry, can you repeat for the KTE? Well, we have achieved 69.1% completion, whereas our best target is 69.6%. Very close, but yet there is going to be such a long delay. So it seems that delayed is quite well, as said by Mr. Chow. We need one tunnel to link up the western and eastern concourse of the station. It's just 100 meters in length. It is the scale works is minor, but then it is very critical. If we cannot break through the tunnel, then the whole project will be held up. Have you been progressing smoothly? Have you sped up, or are you progressing slower and slower? As I said, the start of the tunnel was delayed. It only started in the 4th quarter of last year, so we have a 3-month slippage already. In the coming period, we'll have to see how complicated the geology is. But you're not able to tell me whether you kind of a steady progress or whether you can speed up or will you slow down later. For the time being, we can't tell, depending on the geological conditions. Mr. Chen Kalam. It's a fact that SILE has suffered a delay due to various reasons. Of course, I agree that the underpinning works are rather challenging because the Emerald Station is very complicated. It has got an existing island line and is also an interchange for different railways, so we can imagine the complexity involved. Of course, without the Occupy movement, the cause for the delay might be simpler. We can focus on 1 or 2 causes. But with the Occupy movement, naturally, the progress of works, including support and transportation of excavated materials, have been affected. The government should not water down the impact of the Occupy movement simply because there are people who are rather loud about the project and should not give up on seeking compensation for the delay. Because if we dilute the contribution of such illegal activities, then they do not have to be responsible for the cost, because it's not just major infrastructure projects. Even ordinary members of the public have suffered, and the loss is hard to assess. Now we have the WIL is better for traffic between Admiralty and the Western District, but during the occupation period, we had to spend more than an hour. And from Admiralty to mid-levels, we don't really have any roads. We have to make a detour to Happy Valley, and as a result, the whole of Hong Kong Island suffered from traffic congestion. The time lost and economic loss to ordinary members of the public is hard to estimate. So please do not water down the impact of the movement simply because of the fact that there are rather people speaking loudly here. So I'd like to talk about the geological variations of Whampoa Station. When you did site investigation, did you make reference of the site investigation reports for construction of the Whampoa Garden? Mr. Chow has followed through the project. He is in the know. So can I give the floor to Mr. Chow? Thank you. Before we started, we collected geological information of the site nearby for our reference, including the reports for Whampoa Garden and all other developments nearby. However, such information was just for our reference. And when we started, we encountered geological challenges. So such reports could only be used for our reference. Mr. Leung Kwok-wai, I think Mr. Chen Kam Lam is a joke. Number one, we all talk about money wasted by the MTRCL, and we should ask for the accountability. And then he talked about the Occupy Central movement. I think he is crazy. Well, I think the government could arrest such people, could jail them, and there is no need for you to seek compensation here. In Shanghai, people went to a party according to the government instruction, and over 30 people died. Whereas for the Occupy Central movement, it lasted for over 70 days, but there was no arson, there was no murder, there was no death. So are you crazy? You should ask the government to enforce the law. Here we are to monitor the government. We're not here to monitor the public. Are you crazy? Are you mad? Is this council a place to monitor the community? We're here to monitor the government. They have lost tens of billions of dollars on MTR projects. Can you address the chairman, please, Mr. Leung Kwok-wai? All right, chairman. Para 29 said that the construction materials cannot be delivered to the Harcourt Garden site, and the excavated materials cannot be handled in time, and the construction of the structure of storage cannot commence, and the mines division could not deliver explosives to the work site between the 29th of September, 22nd of December. The excavation work for the overrun tunnel of the SCL could not be carried out by blasting. Full stop. All right, you said, please tell us, please quantify the delay caused by the inability to deliver the construction materials. Next time, give me a clear account. And Queensway was opened again a few weeks before the occupation ended, and yet you did not transport explosives to the work site. So it's your business. Well, if perhaps you thought that the masses there would rob your explosives, you tell us. And the Queensway was recovered long ago. How come you didn't take action to do something about it? And Whampoa, you are working around the clock. Well, you were able to do that, but what about the Admiralty Station? You could have taken action late at night when there were few people. So legislators here are not asking the government to be accountable. Well, the Shanghaiese government asked people to go to a party, and people there were very law-abiding, but over 30 people lost their lives. Well, you have people who hold public office on the mainland. Should you blame those people for losing their lives because they were not law-abiding? You're idiots. We're here to monitor the government. Well, you can call the police and arrest me, it's okay, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars lost. Paragraph 29, Mr. Yao Shengmo, please ask the MTLCO to be more explicit. Please quantify the lost, or quantify the delay caused as a result of the Occupy Central event. Mr. Leung Kwok, I'm afraid your time is up. Mr. Leung Kwok-wai. Mr. Leung Kwok-wai. Yes, you've used up your time. Mr. Chen Hen-pen and I will also speak. All right, a few members have raised this point of Occupy Central to MTRCL. They blamed the corporation for mentioning Occupy Central in its paper. We have a few hundred words on this. In Hong Kong, we have freedom of speech and freedom of expression. I think we need an objective assessment and apportioning of responsibility. So I'd like to ask the MTLCO whether it has done any detailed assessment, as asked by some members. Has it assessed the impact on the progress during the Occupy movement? Has the MTLCO ever done any assessment? Or perhaps you have, but you're worried that you have political considerations, or you're worried that you will be criticized. As a result, you only have a few hundred words to brush aside the matter. Still, you are blamed this morning. So I'd like to know whether political considerations have caused you unable to give us a clear account of the impact. Dr. Wong. During the 2 months or so between September and December, we have very clear records of construction activities at our sites on a daily basis, and our contractors would record any their work progress. But of course, such records will be carefully vetted by us, and the contractors have to give us justifications as to what were the impacts before we could quantify the impact of the movement on our progress. Since a number of members have asked this question, can the corporation give us some paper after its review. We're still waiting for the contractor to give us a report, so we can't do anything before contractors have given us reports. What we're doing now is to catch up for the time lost so that we can achieve the target commissioning date of end 2016. Under Secretary, as legislators, we should be told of everything. I hope that the MTRCL would not be deterred from giving us papers or information because of political considerations. Can you ensure this? Well, we've got Para 29 from the government's paper. It's a paper from the administration. We're aware of various contributing factors to the delay, and we do agree that everything should be set out to give members a clear account. We do agree that we should reflect the facts truthfully, and we also have to put everything in context. We have to tell what are the major causes and what are the minor causes. So in all matters, we have pointed out the impacts. And in Period 29, for instance, the construction and delivery of materials have been affected. And we've also talked about the impact of the undermining works so that members can have a clear account.
Next, Mr. Christopher Zhong, and I'll draw a line here. Thank you, Chairman. Just to follow up on your question, can you give us a paper? What delays have MTRCL projects experienced because of Occupy Central movement? And because of the Occupy Central movement, what alternatives have the MTRCL explored in terms of works being carried out? For example, blasting, which cannot be done because of the failure in delivering the relevant materials. What about the time loss and monetary loss because of the Occupy Central event? This is serious because we don't know. We feel that maybe you're subject to certain pressure and you dare not disclose these details. It's white terror in society now. Is it that your superior doesn't permit you to tell us? So, if so, please tell this subcommittee, give us a table in great detail. The impact, the time, the period of delay, the monetary loss, Under Secretary. Well, I understand that members would like to know more details in certain aspects, and this paper sets out the big picture, the various factors affecting the works, and we have done so in a paper. If members would like to have more details, I see that we still have some time. I wonder if the MTRCL can explain a bit more about the impact, and then perhaps they can explain more about the impact brought about by the Occupy Central movement. Dr. Wong. Now, because of traffic impact, well, our works have been affected, but as explained just now, the major cause of delay had to do with the underpinning works, and we needed to ensure that excavation for the underpinning works could continue, and there have been delays in other aspects, but whether it would cause a major delay in the commissioning date, we need to make a more accurate assessment first. Well, but because of Occupy Central event, if there have been delays, tell us how much works have been delayed, monetary loss, etc. Please give us a written report. Okay with the written report? All right. So that's the end of this item. We'll move on to the other item. How many members would like to ask questions? 4. S 16 minutes. Do members agree if we further extend this meeting by another 15 minutes? No? Okay, so let's make good use of the remaining time. 3 minutes each. Mr. Wong Kwok-wai, followed by 3 other members. Well, let's wait for the MTRCL representatives to come in first. 3 minutes. Please hurry up because we need to adjourn the meeting once the scheduled time is up. Undersecretary, please walk us through the paper. Some brief opening remarks. At the meeting last year in February, we discussed the follow-ups on the service suspension of Cheng Kung O Line and part of Kwun Tong Line on 16th of December 2013, and a report on subsequent major incidents on East Rail Line and Light Rail, and on the report on the overhead line system. Independent overseas experts have been engaged to conduct a review on the overall overhead line system of the MTR in relation to procurement, maintenance, repair, installation, quality assurance, etc. And as the supervising department, the EMSD, would monitor the test results, and independent experts have also been engaged to review the result. And the independent overseas experts appointed by the MTRCL Lloyd's Register Rail has completed the review. Another independent expert, Kammer Netherlands BV, appointed by EMSD, has subsequently completed the review on the MTRCL's and its independent experts review outcome. And the MTRCL has accepted the outcome of the review. On the whole, the MTRCL's independent expert acknowledged the immediate measures or follow-up actions taken by MTRCL after the incidents, and in respect of the installation and replacement mechanism of the insulars, the MTRCL's expert also considered the corporation's practices appropriate, and yet the expert considered that the corporation should improve its procurement and quality control. And we've also reviewed the independent experts' comments, and the MTRCL has also, and the EMSD has also agrees with the 2 experts' recommendations. The MTRCL has accepted all the recommended improvement measures made by the MTRCL's independent expert, the EMSD's independent expert, and the EMSD, and the improvement measures are being implemented. And EMSD noted that the procurement requirement of components such as insulators, which are not expensive but have greater impact on railway service, has been advanced by MTRCL to be in line with that for higher value or more important components. I'll defer to the MTRCL. Please be as brief as possible. Thank you. Well, last year, the MTRCL engaged the Overseas Expert Lloyd's Register Rail to conduct a comprehensive review on the installation, design, and replacement and maintenance mechanism of the overhead line system, and we'd like to brief members on our improvement measures and how the measures are implemented. The incident occurred in February last year, and we took some immediate follow-up actions, and we found that for the insulators installed at 128 locations of the East Rail Line belonging to the same model and same batch of the faulty insulators have been replaced, and for the remaining batch we expect them to be replaced by the end of this year. And we also have conducted tests, and screening tests will be conducted before new insulators are installed, and there will also be double insulators and quality assurance mechanism. And we also follow up with the supplier on the causes of faulty insulators, and we've suspended procurements of insulators. And we've also improved the reliability and mechanical strength of the overhead line system of the light rail. And on the independent experts review, the expert has made reference to good practices adopted by other railways worldwide to identify scope for improvement. And in terms of procurement process and maintenance cycle, etc., our practices are appropriate. And the expert's opinion is that in relation to the insulator incident, it has nothing to do with design or the use of materials. It has rather to do with procurement and quality control. So recommendations have been made on procurement. Our practice normally is to procure spares from the original design supplier in accordance with the serial number shown on the product catalogue. However, every time we replenish stock, we should detail our requirement product information, such as the specifications, etc., to ensure that quality can be assured. To minimize risk, the expert also recommended that after placing purchase order, we should on a regular basis inspect the supplier's factory, and there should be sampling tests. And the expert also considered that screening tests should be conducted before they're installed to ensure quality products are supplied. And for different components of the overhead line systems, we are going to adopt the experts' recommendation on all spare parts for the overhead line system to ensure quality. With new technology and new standards in the market, we have continuously explored whether we can continue to provide quality service. Mr. Tan. Well, for extension of meetings, those who objected have already left this meeting room, and can we extend the meeting and ask more questions? Well, since I asked just now, and since some other members have left, it may not be appropriate to ask again. No, do be flexible, Chairman. The four of us have questions to ask, so why not? Well, but we need 6 members to hold a meeting, and we have 5 members here, but nobody is calling for quorum. No, but even if nobody's calling, I should be concerned about quorum. But if nobody's objecting now, why not extend the meeting? Well, but they have heard us saying that the meeting will not be extended before they left, and I discussed with the Secretariat. We don't have any alternative. We must wait till next meeting before we discuss this again. But I think this is too rigid. We have 4 members here. Well, other members knew before they left that the meeting would not be extended. If we make another decision, we need to follow the quorum requirement. No, I don't think so. Well, if we don't, just now we didn't have a quorum. Well, let me ask the Secretariat whether we would be breaching the ROP. Well, just now, since some members opposed, we must not extend the meeting. That's the view of the Secretariat. Let's continue next time. Thank you. Chairman, two more minutes before we adjourn the meeting. I want to raise this point. Next time when we discuss this, item, the administration and the MTRCL should explain whether the supplier will compensate, whether the administration has sought compensation from the supplier, because there seems to be no follow-up action with the supplier. That means the supplier has no responsibility to bear. So next time when we discuss this paper, please explain whether the supplier has been asked to compensate and the amount. Yes, please note that. Administration. Meeting's adjourned.